Where's my mummy? Welcome back, S'mores, to Beyond the Campfire, where today we're looking for your mummy. Not your mommy, your mummy. It seems we've misplaced ours. I don't know where she went or he went. I don't know what gender they were. They were just wrapped up in toilet paper. Anyways, welcome back to this wonderful podcast called Beyond the Campfire, where you've got me, your sexy host, and you got this guy, Steven the Indian. I'm Will the Cowboy. That's my Indian. My who is it? Lone Ranger and Tonto. That's my Tonto. And today we're going to be talking about some spooky stuff, like we always do, whether it's the government, ghosts, cryptids, Steven's ex. Doesn't matter. We'll solve it. Welcome back. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Beyond Campfire. You can find us on any other podcasting platform. Find us on Patreon. We got some really spooky Halloween specials going on there. Yeah, as I said earlier, where's my mummy? Where's she at, Steve?
That's right. So I am Steven the Indian. That is Will the Cowboy, as he said. And yeah, welcome to our podcast. So if you are new, welcome. We talk about ghosts, cryptids, conspiracy theories, things like that. Today we are talking about mummies. So, it is still Halloween season. Or is it just past it now at this point by the time
This episode is actually on Halloween.
Oh, look at that. Perfect. Yeah. So
you guys are getting 2 episodes today. You greedy little buggers.
I know, yeah. At least the other episode is for our Patreon viewers, right? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, it's for our Patreon viewers. Steven and I on that. Ooh, we went to some spooky place.
Yeah. So, if you're not on the Patreon, make sure you come on the Patreon. But yeah, if you're not on the Patreon, it's okay. You still get this episode. But yeah. So today we are talking about mummies, and not the Egyptian Return of the Mummy kind of mummies, right? Those are typically the ones you think about when you're thinking about mummies. But no, we are talking about the Nazca mummies.
Yes.
And if Nazca sounds familiar to you, that is because earlier this year we talked about the Nazca lines. So you could say that this episode, in a way, is a part 2 to the Nazca line sling. I'll probably recap Nazca lines just a little bit, just because a little bit of it has
I could do that real quick if you want me to, because I think that was my episode.
Sure, yeah. If you wanted to
so real quickly, Nazca lines, if you don't know what those lines are, basically out in the deserts of Peru. Is that the right country?
Yeah.
All those South American countries, man. I never was good at geography. All right, so in Peru, there's all these lines, and nobody truly knows what they mean. They were built over thousands of years, and there are these weird rocks that were just designed to look like bugs, plants. There's like a spider one, pretty cool looking. And the problem is, the only way you can see these is from high above. There's mountains you can look at them, fly a helicopter plane, or they're extraterrestrial. And I think that's actually what the mummies kind of like lean in more into, is the extraterrestrial side.
Yeah, for sure. So that was a great recap. As Will was saying, you have these giant lines written in the desert. I have a little bit of information on the Nazca lines here, but yeah, as you said, they're old, right? So these things were etched somewhere between 500 in BC and 500 AD. So these things are thousands of years. And actually, the question is, how did the Colombian Nazca culture, how were they able to so precisely make out these drawings of like birds and monkeys and things?
Yeah, it's crazy how they did it. And if you really want to, if you want an in-depth dive of that, you go find that episode. I'm trying to think when we did that. It wasn't too long ago. I think it's about 4 or 5 episodes ago. So yeah, just kind of scroll on YouTube, you should find it. Really good episode.
It is Nazca lines. Today's episode is Nazca mummies. So if you kind of wanted to think of those as a part 1 and part 2, you could potentially do that. So
yeah.
But all right, yeah. So one of the theories we talked about with the Nazca lines is that it was aliens that formed it, right? These aliens came in and they either helped the Nazca culture people at that time make these lines, or the aliens just kind of did it themselves. For what reason they did it, we don't really know why. But again, to this day, this is something that you can see while flying a plane over that area. You can look down, you can see just these giant drawings of the. So.
Yeah. I just looked it up. The Nazca episode is I just had it. If you guys want to go back and watch it, it is Desert Signatures Walking the Nazca Lines is about a month ago, according to YouTube. So probably about five episodes ago. So there you go.
There you go. So, yeah, be sure to keep up with our content. We have been doing this for about a year and a half, right?
Yeah.
So,
And it's going great. We're enjoying it. And
yeah, lots of
really
great content out there for you guys to watch and to invest in. So,
not as good as some of the new stuff, but we're trying.
for sure.
So
The
yeah,
Nazca
mummies.
Yeah, the mummies. Nazca lions, kind of discovered in 1927, 1930s. It's just kind of when a lot of the renewed interest came. The Nazca mummies were discovered more recently. So we are going from about the 1920s and 1930s, fast forwarding to the 2010s.
Wow, Stephen, did you? You didn't say 1930s. You said 1930 Thursdays.
Oh, wow. Maybe
Yeah.
I need to drink a little bit more coffee, or maybe the Nazca mummies are doing experiments on my mind. Who knows, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So they were discovered in 2010. Yeah, because I remember um, the reason why we were talking about the Nazca mummies was when I was talking about the Nazca lines. There's a show I used to watch, and they talked about the Nazca lines, but they also talked about the Nazca mummies. And so I think that show came out probably around 2012, so like 2 years after their discovery. So it was like pretty shortly after the discovery. So they weren't discovered that long ago.
yeah, no, it wasn't very long. And basically, local tomb robbers, known as haqueros. So I guess haqueros means tomb robbers. I need to actually look that up and see.
Yeah, that actually like instead of like oh he's a grave robber, it's like haqueros. That just sounds cooler, you know.
Yeah, no, for
He's a
sure.
haquero.
So the haqueros in Peru's Nazca region unearthed several bizarre mummified bodies, again, in the Nazca region. So already your mind's thinking, wait a second, you have these Nazca lines here, which were possibly made by aliens, and now you have these mummified, possibly alien bodies?
Yeah, freaky. Makes you
So,
ask some questions.
I tend to be the more skeptical among us, right? When me and Will were talking about the Nazca lines, I had some doubt about their alien origins. I was just like, hey, humans do amazing things. I could see humans creating this possibly without any alien help. But now these bodies are found, right? And so it's just like, well, wait a second. Maybe there's some more merit to the Nazca line theory than originally thought. So let's talk about these mummies. What did these haqueros? What did they find? So these haqueros found these mummies that were very small, right? So some of them were just about 2 feet tall. Others were, a little bit bigger, about human size. But their skulls were elongated, right? So our skulls about this, and Will's skulls about that long, and I mean, you can make jokes about me having a 5 head or something like that,
I
but
think my forehead's bigger.
right. But when we're talking about these elongated skulls, I'm not talking about someone with like a 5 head. We're talking about
Yeah.
someone like a 20 head, right? So these skulls are really
Well,
really long.
well, the only reason why Steven's got a 5 head is because he's got a receding hairline, but it's fine. We don't make fun of him for it. Baldy.
Hey, I did just turn 28
Yep.
earlier this month, so the age is slowly getting to me. But
That receding hairline, guys.
that stuff aside, um, these mummies had elongated skulls, and they only had about 3 fingers and toes, and they eerily resembled the sci-fi alien known as the Greys. Will, I don't know if you probably know more about Greys than I do. I don't know
Yeah.
that Greys, but did you have any thoughts or
Yeah.
anything you
So
wanted?
so the grays, so in sci-fi, like in like typical, ufology and the diving in of UFOs, the grays are your typical aliens, right? They're kind of short, they got big black eyes, the gray skin, no hair, nothing, just a bald gray looking alien thing. Like imagine ET, but if ET had bigger eyes and was gray. Um, there's actually what's really interesting about the grays is there's I'm going to bring it up again. There's a show called Stargate. I like Stargate. I watched it. I think our editor watches it too. And Stargate, they actually have a race of aliens on there called the Asgardians, which they took. Because the cool thing about the aliens in Stargate is that, like, the different races of aliens, when they visited Earth, they took on different aspects of our culture. So the Asgardians, as they are in their name, they took on the persona of Norse mythology. So you had like one called Thor, you had one called Loki, these kind of, and so they were a race of aliens that visited Earth, and they are the reasons for the Greys. So yeah, just short little gray bald creatures with big black eyes. That's your typical alien. Not the little green fella. That's not an alien. That's Hollywood. But the little gray guys.
Neat. So yeah, these mummies look a lot like Greys, and this is where things get a little bit interesting to me. So if I'm a hackero and I find these mummified aliens, what am I thinking about?
Money.
Money,
Like Mr. Krabs over here. Money, 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 money.
money, 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 money. So, and hey, if you give us some money, 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 you can get some cool Patreon content. But
Yeah.
these hackeros, the news of these findings really kind of remained kind of hidden until 2017. Not that people weren't talking about it. Some people were certainly diving into it a little bit more. But yeah, it really started to get more into the popular imagination when a group of UFO enthusiasts and journalists, headed by a Mexican TV personality named Jamie Maussan, publicized the corpses as potential extraterrestrials. So, in 2017, Maussan and his colleagues showcased the three-fingered shriveled white mummies in an online documentary series that they made, dubbing it a world-changing discovery. So, for the first time, this is getting out there. Now, I'm the skeptic among us, but, some Peruvian scientific authorities came out and they also had some doubts. So, here, here's where I'm like, okay, let's hear what maybe some of the skeptics have to say as well. So some Peru scientific authorities came out and conducted an investigation, looked into the mummies, and here's where things get a little bit interesting. They did not reach a consensus. So both groups of scientists agreed that it wasn't aliens. However, they did differ on what it was, which kind of gives some credibility to the people that believe it was aliens. So, one group of scientists said these so-called alien bodies were recently manufactured dolls that Masan or the Hackeros or whatever, that they had made these dolls and they had kind of like burned them or done some things to their body to make them look like aliens, but that's all they were. They were manufactured dolls made together of human and animal parts and held together with paper and synthetic glue skin. However, the other group of scientists said, no, these are something living, but they're humans from thousands of years ago. We're doing carbon dating on them. They weren't dolls made like 20, 30 years ago, but no, these were humans that lived maybe 1,000 years ago, maybe 1,500 years ago, and their bodies have just been altered to make them look more alienish or other things like that. So, part of me is like, sure, yeah, maybe they are dolls, hackeros want to make money, or this Masan guy, he wants to make some money. But then there's other groups saying, hey, no, these are actually people. And I want to agree with either one of them because either one of those groups seems more possible than aliens. However, how come both groups didn't come to the same conclusion?
My question is then who were the two groups? Because I know you're talking about there's these two different groups of scientists. Who backed each group? That's my question.
Yeah, that's a good question, and yeah, right. You want to follow the money and see what they are. These were independent scientists, or so they claim. But they, had no financial interest or anything. They just wanted to reveal the truth. So they say. Here's where I doubt their independency a little bit later. In September of 2023, so really just about 6 months before you and me started this podcast, because we
Yeah.
started March of 2024.
Yep.
In September of 2023, Jamie Masson presented two of the mummified bodies stored in glass cases to the Congress of Mexico during a hearing on UFOs. Now, this is where I want to be skeptical, but I'm like, wait a second. If two groups of scientists already said these aren't actually aliens, and yet a few years later, the Congress of Mexico calls Jamie Masson to bring these bodies and present them at a hearing on UFOs
Yep.
to Congress,
Yep.
that's where I have some doubt. If the Congress of Mexico is doubting these two groups of scientists' claims, then why should I believe the scientists?
Well, it's like you think about like the U.S. government. Wasn't it like a couple months, like not a couple months ago, probably like a couple years ago, where you had like that committee where the United States government was kind of starting to declassify some of their alien ops, you know? So it is that, I mean, that raises some questions because we already know the government's shady. Like we'll say it on the podcast, the government shady as will get out. And so, like, if two scientists came out, like, oh, it's just a bunch of dolls created 50, 30 years ago, sure, whatever. There's other groups like, oh, the scientists, we think it was just for a culture from that time, because we do know like ancient people had different, like they practiced beauty in different ways. I think there was a video I saw once where they were showing how they made their skulls elongated, because there was a way where they were able to, like when a baby was born, they could, because the skull is still forming, they were able to make the head grow a certain way. And I was like, okay, but then for the government to step in and be like, we don't believe these guys and we don't believe these guys, we want you to bring those straight to us. That's where I say, fishy. Not in the fishy sense that like this isn't true, but in the fishy sense of, what did this guy actually find?
For sure, yeah. And to give even further credibility to the government shady, right? So after this hearing to the Congress of Mexico was made in early 2024, so really just a couple of months before you and me started podcasting, Peruvian officials seized the bodies from Mexico. So they other government officials took this from Mexico because
Yeah.
Mexico is starting to catch on to something, and Peruvian officials held a big press conference in Lima, Peru, and they had these experts come out and they're like, "Oh, yep, we looked at them too, and yep, these alien mummies, they were just man-made dolls held together with glue, and that's the answer. So no need to look into this anymore. That's the answer. Nope, you can't see the bodies anymore. We have the bodies now. We're not gonna let you look at them another time. We just have the bodies, and nope, you're not allowed to look at them anymore."
Fishy.
So that's kind of where we are now. Peru still has them. Will anybody else ever have access to them again?
Who knows?
Who knows, right?
I said this last time, like with the National Geographic or National Treasure. We were talking about, oh, well, we got to break in the Vatican. Well, guess what? We're fixing to go rob the Peruvian government, guys.
That's a little bit foreshadowing for our ChatGPT story.
Oh, we're gonna go rob the Peruvian government. Awesome, great, love it.
Yeah. So that'll be a little bit interesting, but
see, that's like the funny thing about it. It's like me and Steven were podcasting, and like as a kid, they were always like, oh, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it was like, I want to do this, I want to do this. I always kind of want to be a paranormal investigator. And so I think it's really cool that me and Steven are kind of doing this now. But it's like, imagine if we actually get the money and we can like actually go rob the Peruvian government and steal the mummies and prove that aliens are real, or that we could go hijack some book from the Vatican. Like, if we can do all these, go subscribe to our Patreon if you want to see us rob the Peruvian government. Go follow us there. Yep. We need the funds for the getaway car, the getaway driver. We need to hire like a specialist to get us the blueprints. So yeah, go follow our Patreon if you guys want to watch us like steal from the Peruvian government.
Mm-hmm. So I have just a little bit more information before we get into the ChatGPT story, but uh, the group of scientists. Remember, there's two groups. So let's say there's Group A, which said it
Yeah.
was owls. There's Group B, which said they were just humans.
Yeah.
The Group B had some disagreements even among themselves.
Oh.
So some of the scientists said, "Hey, they're about 1,000 years old." Some of them said, "No, they're about 1,700 years old." Might not seem like that much of a difference. However, the group that thought they were 1,700 years old, that would match up nicely with when the Nazca lines were created.
Yep.
But that set aside, some of the scientists said these are definitely human. Some of the people within that second group, Group B, said, no, these are not humans. They're something else. They're just not aliens. They're just something else. They just don't know exactly what it is. Which I'm like, whoa, okay, so even within this group, there's still not even agreement among the group, which I find very interesting.
Yeah, and that's what's like I said, the whole thing is just so fishy because it's like, I mean, if you think about it, okay, when you look at the whole timeline before we get into the ChatGPT story, when you look at the whole timeline of everything, it's like, okay, so these, what do we call them again? Were the tomb robbers? What are they called? The hakas,
Hageros.
the hekeros. So the hekeros come in, find the mummies, keep them under lock and key for a couple of years. This television guy comes out, says, okay, I'm going to look into this. Gets two groups of scientists to look at it, Group A and Group B. Group A says, okay, these are dolls. Group B says, no, they're people. But then there's some people inside of it. They're like, no, they're not people. They could be something else. And then there's the whole miscut. Like, okay, they're 1,700 years old. Well, that lines up with the Nazca line. So then if they're truly 1,700-year-old mummies, I mean, obviously we don't have alien DNA on file unless, you contact Area 51. But, if these truly are aliens and they truly are 1,700 years old, that it means that the Nazca lines were created to contact UFOs and contact aliens. So, and then, okay, but everybody's, there's some discrepancies. It's like, okay, whatever. But then the Mexican government goes, well, hold up now. I want to take these bones and stuff. We're going to seize them. Okay, great. Nice. Awesome. So the government's once again hiding the truth from the people. Then the Peruvian government's like, hey, now, those bones belong to us. Cough them up. And then the Mexican government has to cough them up. And then the Peruvian government says, case closed. Nobody's going to look at them. We don't know what they are. Just shut up and pretend you didn't see anything. And it's like the whole timeline, the whole way everything's going, it's shady, it's spooky, it's freaky. It's like, what are they hiding?
Right, exactly. And so, are these actually aliens? Who knows? The Peru government has them now. Is it possible that the Mexican government, looked at these things just kind of out of curiosity and basically kind of confirmed what other people have been saying about them? Who knows, right? Who knows? Mexico didn't have it for very long, and it's kind of a shame that Peru won't let anybody look at it now, and
Right.
because I mean, if it truly was dolls made by somebody, or if it was just like human remains, then you shouldn't be afraid of other people looking.
No, you shouldn't be afraid to hide it. And that's what makes it really fishy and unknowing is I mean, it's like they always say, like, if you're not speaking the truth, they don't have a reason to silence you.
Exactly.
If what you're showing us is nothing worth causing panic over, if they're just some ancient humans we found that happen to do some sort of practice that caused their skulls to be elongated, like we have seen, because I'm pretty sure, like I said, I do think I saw a video on that. Like, I know there's the people that do the elongated necks with like the rings and stuff. And so it's like, if this is just that, okay, then why aren't you saying anything? But if it's something else like UFOs or aliens or something that would cause global panic, they would hide it. And that's where it's like, that's why it makes you like, I mean, you're probably going to be like, well, whenever we get to our theories on all this, you're probably going to say, I still know you're stonewalled on this. You're not going to truly believe in aliens until me and you are out in a cornfield and all of a sudden a UFO flies by and waves at you, but I think that there are moments in this podcast and moments in these episodes where we have had instances like Frederick Valentich, where you have questioned things and it's pushed you a little bit closer towards believing. And I hope Nazca Lions Mummies is one of those, because you can't sit here and be like, yeah, they're right. It's just some old bodies. If it's just some old bodies, why is the government hiding them? If
Exactly.
Peru discovered the people who possibly built the Nazca Lines and they are just ancient people, why aren't those bodies in a museum? Why are they
Right.
being sealed away? Like you think about Egypt, like Egypt's got King Tut. We got King Tut sitting in the Smithsonian. You know, he's chilling in there. People can go look at him. Wow, look at old history. But you're locking these away. What are you hiding?
Very fair. Very fair. Definitely questions to be asked. All right. I really have nothing else. We can go ahead and get into our ChatGPT story and about me and Will encountering the Nazca mummies. And if you have not seen some of our other episodes, this ChatGPT story makes some references to other adventures we've had. So
Yep.
make sure to check out our other podcast episodes. But
Yeah.
without further ado, we have Beyond the Campfire, Tomb of the Nazca. The desert wind howled over the sand-scoured rooftop of the Peruvian research compound. Moonlight sliced through the clouds like a blade, spotlighting a lone figure crouched by the skylight. Will the cowboy. Cowboy hat pulled low, pistol strapped to his thigh. Will grinned to himself. Nothing like sneaking into a secret Peruvian government lab, he whispered, prying open the hatch. Just science and some post-mortem aliens. What could go wrong? Breaking into the lab, Will found inside refrigerated glass cases lining the lab, their contents dimly lit from below. There they were, the infamous Nazca mummies, three-fingered, long-skulled, shriveled things that looked like gray extraterrestrials. Will crept over to the largest specimen, marveling at his strange limbs. Gotcha, he muttered, reaching for a scalpel. Behind him, a voice cracked like silence, or cracked the silence like thunder. Will, what have you done? Will jumped, nearly knocking over the alien's display pod. Steven, fancy meeting you here, he said, raising his hands. You want to yell now or wait until I'm done desecrating these alien ancient corpses? Steven stood in the doorway, arms crossed, his jacket swirling in the cold gust from the open skylight, beard bristling, eyes sharp. I told you not to come here. You broke into a restricted government facility. It's not breaking in if the security system was begging to be outwitted, Will replied. You're interfering with sacred anthropology, Stephen growled. I'm interfering with cover-ups, Will snapped. If they're real, the world needs to know. If they're fake, someone's profiting off the bones of lies. Either way, the Peruvian government can't get away with this. I'm doing God's work, brother. Oh, now it's God's work. Stephen rolled his eyes. Funny how convenient your theology gets when there's a locked door with a shiny mystery. Before Will could retort with something clever, and probably slightly blasphemous, a third voice slithered into the room. Ah, but gentlemen, you are too late. A man emerged from the shadows, lab coat rumpled, glasses glinting, hair plastered to a skull line like it was afraid to leave. He looked more like a cockroach than a scientist. Who the hell are you? Will asked, drifting toward his pistol. The man smiled, too wide. I am Dr. Hartman, and you are trespassing on the next step of human evolution.
Oh boy.
Stephen stepped forward. What are you doing with these remains? Hartman chuckled and grabbed the collar of his lab coat. With a dramatic yank, he tore it open, revealing an old, faded Nazi swastika tattooed across his chest.
Dear God.
Will blinked. Okay, I was not expecting that. Oh no, Stephen whispered. Not again. Again? Hartman delighted. Ah, you've met my predecessors at Hauska Castle, I presume. The zombie experiments? Those were crude, lacked vision. But now, with what the ancients buried beneath Nazca, I have refined the Nazi serum. I have perfected zombie resurrection. As if on cue, the largest mummies behind them stirred. It twitched, then sat up, then screeched. Glass exploded. Lab lights flickered. The mummies, 5 of them, rose like cursed marionettes, 3-fingered claws clicking and stretching. Will! Stephen shouted. Already on it. Will drew both pistols and fired. Bang, bang, bang. But the bullets barely slowed the creatures down. Stephen unsheathed his 3 swords, 2 in hand, 1 in his mouth, um, and clenched beneath his teeth. You always do this, Stephen growled mid-block, parrying a lunge at a lunging alien corpse. You really had to break into a government facility all by yourself? I'm sorry, I'm the one who's trying to expose the government for what they really are, and you're here lecturing me? Will shouted back. You brought us here, Stephen said. The 2 of them argued while fighting, Will ducking and rolling, Stephen slicing with precise, righteous fury, yet the mummies outnumbered and outmaneuvered them. Stephen stumbled. A clawed hand swiped his cheek. Will missed a shot and got knocked into a table of scalpels. They were losing. Stephen, Will panted. Brother, we can't keep doing this. I know you're mad at me, but at the end of the day, you're my brother. I know that, Stephen said. No, I mean it, Will replied. I know you don't always agree with what I do, and I know that I think sometimes you're intense and bossy and too nice to the government. But we need to work together on this, and I'm sorry for rushing into here without talking to you first. Stephen perked up. Is this an apology? Will held his hands up. Just saying, I'll always have your back, even if you hate my methods. Stephen smiled, looking at him. I don't hate your methods, Stephen said. I just don't always like your lack of planning. Will grinned. Shall we do it, brother? Stephen grabbed his hand in a fierce handshake. You got it, brother. They stood side by side, back to back, and this time they fought as one. Will's pistols exploded in rhythm, each shot finding a mummy's forehead. Stephen whirled like a human blender, one sword cleaving an arm, the other 2 carving a path through undead flesh. Within minutes, the floor was littered with twitching alien limbs. The final mummy hissed, and Stephen impaled it clean through the chest. Rest in pieces, he muttered, yanking his blade free. Now, we need to go get Dr. What's his name, Will said. But before they could find him, Dr. Hartman smashed the window and drove off in a secret military tank. Stephen groaned. The government's in on this? I told you, Will said. Will holstered his pistols. Whatever it is, he's gone now. We'll have to find him another time. Sheesh, Nazis always coming back for these sequels. Stephen looked around the lab. We're gonna have to clean this up. Will smiled. Yeah, but admit it, this was kind of fun. We should break into government buildings more often. Stephen just shook his head. But he didn't disagree, either. The end.
All I could think about was when it was like, who else but Will? Breaking the government said, who else but Will? Because
I liked how we were like kind of fighting a little bit, but then we came back together.
We're like, hey,
So,
My methods are a little bit abrasive, but hey, they get the job done.
Get the job done.
So yeah. So what do you think, Steve? I guess we kind of talked a little bit earlier. Do you believe it's aliens or a hoax?
I don't know if I told you this at the time, but whenever we did the MK Ultra episode, that's really when I started to I've been kind of doubting the government a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
But the MK Ultra episode really was what made me say, man, if the U.S. government was willing to hijack the brains of its own citizens,
Mm-hmm.
who's to say what they're doing now? You know,
I know, right? And it makes you wonder, like, if it's not just the United States, if governments can do that, makes you question about other governments.
exactly. And this Peruvian government again, whether Group A is right or Group B is right, or maybe neither of them are right, but if the Group A or Group B theory is true, why hide these bodies, right?
Yep.
Like you shouldn't have to go breaking in to see for yourself, right?
Yeah.
So I'm skeptical. I do think maybe it's possible that it is what the Peruvian government is, what it's saying, and they're just hiding it because they don't want anybody to keep spreading these lies. But then again, I'm like, is it really that much of a national security risk that you have to have these bodies and hide it from the public? So
Yeah, that's what really makes me question it. Is like the whole, is it really a matter of national security? You know, if you're having to hide these bodies, what is it you're not telling us? Because a lot of times, like, not to say the government always transparent, they never really are. We'll talk about a bunch of the different CIA ops on this podcast. We might have a day where we just talk about CIA operations and how sketchy they were. But I mean, the scary thing about it is, the government hides things from its own citizens, and a lot of times, if this truly was just some random mummies of some ancient people, they would have them on display. They would have them in a museum. But
exactly.
by them concealing them, I think it's got to be aliens. You know,
Yeah, I mean
or
that's the only I mean maybe there's a few other things, but like the type of things that these hakeros found, if it is aliens, then I could see why the Peruvian government would want to hide it. I would see why
yeah,
the Peruvian government would take it away from the Mexican government, because like here's another government that's suspicious and is looking into it, and this government is taking it away from that government, and it's just like, okay,
yeah,
there might be something there, right? There might
yeah.
be.
And I think really, like, if it's kind of like when you look at a puzzle, right? You got a puzzle and you put all the pieces together. I think by having the Nazca mummies, I think we can almost solve the Nazca lines and truly what those lines could have been meant for. If these mummies truly were carbon dated to 1700 years ago, around the time that the Nazca lines were built, if they were built, if these mummies were from around that time and the government's hiding them and they're possibly aliens, Nazca lines probably were built for communication.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we
So
solved. I think we solved it. So do you believe it's aliens?
I I think there's a good possibility.
A good possibility. I'll take a good possibility.
So there y'all have it, s'mores.
There we go.
Maybe Will makes a believer out of me yet.
We'll find out. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Make sure again that you guys follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Beyond Campfire, and as well on TikTok. And where's my mummy?